Hi, welcome to Manas Shield YouTube channel. Before we start, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Let's start the video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link it in the description box, or you can click here. Chapter 2. A short-lived everyday life. Plans for Farminis Kingdom. Apparently, no hardship is too great to gain knowledge. It's difficult to understand people with unique idiosyncrasies. It was best not to interfere in such cases, and I vowed again to let Gadra do as he pleased. I boarded the carriage and received a report from Gadra about Masayuki's coronation. The carriage moves slowly through the city, so I make the most of the time. So, Masayuki's coronation went well, huh? Yes, sir. It went very well. With Tensura-sama and Valgren-sama working together to encourage him, it would have been impossible for him to fail. Well, that would definitely be the case, if those two are on our side. If they weren't, that would be a problem, but I only got the impression that it would be. To begin with, Masayuki was a lucky man. On top of that, with such brilliant figures on his side like Tensura and Valgren, the incarnation of power, I truly believed that no one would be able to oppose him. The people, who had seen Valgren-sama's majesty, seemed to welcome the crowning of the new Emperor Masayuki-sama. I mean, who could resist the sight of that? Gadra assures us. Well, it's only natural that no one can complain when they are shown the overly grandiose match pump that erupted a volcano to prevent its threat. It seems to me that Valgren knows no bounds when it comes to treating volcanoes as matches. Some people are still dissatisfied, but I'm sure Tensura-sama will take care of them. Is it going to work? No problem. Calgario Dono and others were worried that Tensura-sama would kill all of the dissenters, but their fears were unfounded. It seems that the information I provided was put to good use, and I was impressed by Mas-sama's skill. I'm sure he will be able to take advantage of the enemy's weakness and settle this matter in a perfect manner. Well, that's true. I wouldn't want to make enemies with those two either. If there's anyone brave enough to oppose us, we can recruit them in our country. You're right. I can only say yes. You're absolutely right. I'd feel the same way if I saw that scene. Gadra and I laugh at each other. As I thought, Gadra is a delightful old man. It seemed that our hearts were connected because of our shared impression. Inside the castle, we were greeted by the king and queen, Yaum and Myron, as well as all of their ministers. Edmulus, the former king of Farmenas, was also there, but he had lost weight and shaved his beard, so he looked different from when I met him. The light in his eyes was not cloudy, which made me think so even more. It would be awkward for both of us to talk to him, so I let him pass. Although this visit was unofficial, I informed them that the purpose of my visit was about the upcoming disaster. It would be great if we could avoid war, but everyone understood that it was too optimistic. The kingdom of Farminas is a newborn nation and has no financial resources to spare. It relies on loans from our country, as I mentioned earlier. Moreover, their military power had not recovered. Training knights is not something that can be done overnight, not to mention that they have no money to hire mercenaries. I was not going to take the blame for that, even though I had something to do with it. Because if you care about everything, you can't have justice. I don't believe that everything I do is right, but from an official standpoint, I will shout for justice. If I don't, the victims won't be happy. That's why even though I feel liable, I do not speak of it. However, as an ally, I will provide as much assistance as possible. Sending Gadra is part of that, and Yaum and the others understand as such. In other words, this country's vassals are facing the reality that they can't afford to get into a quarrel with me. Boss, has the situation improved? Yaum asked on behalf of everyone. The demon lords and I have made a lot of arrangements, but to be honest, it's a bit of a crapshoot. I'm not sure if that's enough, which is why I've been traveling around. The situation had been explained via Gadra, so there was no major confusion. He also showed me where to install the magic transfer circle without me having to say a word. You can ask Gadra here about the fine-tuning and how to use it. Leave it to me. So this is your escape plan in case of emergency. But, you know, it's really a question of where you choose. Well, yeah. The place where you escape might not always be safe, and it may only be a temporary relief. Well, it doesn't matter where I run to if the boss's country falls. In that case, I'll just resign myself to the fact that it was meant to be. Yaum said so cheerfully, and his vassals nodded in agreement. It seems that people in this country are more afraid of me than I thought. At the same time, there seemed to be a strange belief prevailing in the country that there was no point in doing anything if I could not win. Hey, don't be so irresponsible, just keep struggling until the end, okay? Of course. My daughter was just born, so I'm not going to end my life. But still, Papa, why hasn't she called me that yet? Yaum had become a great parental fool. He was poking at Meme, the baby in Myron's arms, and grumbling like that. No, I don't know about that, but too much attention will wake her up. Myron, who was taking care of Meme, would have been furious if that happened, so I casually warned him. This kind of casual consideration is the sign of a capable man. Maybe. Please tell him more. He seems to lose his calm judgment when it comes to this child. Myron said in a disgusted tone. I can imagine that's how he usually behaves. It's because there's a shitty wolf who claims my daughter is his daughter, so I can't be too careful. That's what Yaum says, but I don't understand. What nonsense. I'm the guy who's going to take your place and marry Myron in the future. Then of course, Myron's daughter will be my daughter. Grucius, you bastard, give it a rest. How many times do I have to tell you that your assumptions are wrong? That's right. Yaum is crazy, but that shitty wolf, Grucius, is crazy too. I know Meme is cute, but I don't know what kind of thinking he must have to claim her as his own daughter. Well, I can understand Yaum's feelings, right? Look, Grucius. I knew the boss would understand. No matter how busy he is, he worries that, if he doesn't take care of Meme in his spare time, he won't be remembered as a father. He said that he is making a tearful effort not to let Grucius beat him to it. Well, in this day and age, it's not a good idea to obsess over things. Even if it's a stupid story, if it makes you feel better, it's welcome. However, don't say stupid things, and get yourself flagged for death, okay? I said so, and gave Yaum and the others a list of death flags. We held the meeting in the Farminis Kingdom's capital building. Since I had a general idea of the flow of the meeting, the explanation went smoothly. The only thing I expected Yaum and the others to do, was to guide the people of Farminas to evacuate, not to fight. Since the magic transfer circle I installed cannot evacuate a large number of people, we needed to decide who would use it beforehand. I asked them to coordinate it well, so that there wouldn't be any conflicts. However, the destination was not necessarily safe, so the purpose of the transfer was different. Rather than the evacuation of important people, we were more concerned with the dispatch of troops. If the Farminis Kingdom became a battlefield, the newly established knights would respond to the situation. It seems that Grucius has been training the knights from the new recruits, including the old Farminas knights, but they are not enough to fight. Therefore, arrangements were made to send reinforcements from other countries. It would have been easy if we had placed them from the beginning, but since we did not know where the enemy would aim, we needed to be able to move them in any way. After considering the importance, it was decided that the Farminis Kingdom would be postponed. Even if this kingdom is lost, it can be rebuilt. As long as the human casualties were kept to a minimum, there was no need to force the war. It was difficult for me to tell Yaum and the others this, but I explained it to them and they agreed. Naturally, I promised to support them as much as possible by carrying out reconstruction projects in the worst case. This kind of laying the groundwork was important in order to make effective use of our limited forces. I know. It's not like boss has abandoned us. That said, there are only about 50 people who can go at a time with the magic transfer circle. It's not a reassuring number at all. Still, normally, we're supposed to protect our country on our own. And since you've been so considerate, I don't want anything more. His words weren't directed at me, but at the ministers who seemed to want to complain. I can understand the unvoiced arguments of the ministers, that they wanted us to help, that they didn't want to sacrifice their people, and that they wanted us to send more forces, but unfortunately we can't afford it either. Well, I guess they understood that, and that's why they grudgingly agreed with us. Anyway, the business with the Farminis Kingdom was completed successfully. After that, I went around to various places with Yaum's guidance. The main attraction was the construction site, where important facilities were being built. The Farminas Kingdom was the original royal capital of Farmus, so the central part of the city, within the city walls, was a noble town. As you move closer to the outer perimeter of the city, the population becomes poor, and the free people were forced out of the city walls. Land readjustment was being carried out to make major renovations, but in the process, the streets running through the center of the city were dug up and underground passages were built. The plan was to have the subway run from the station building adjacent to the royal capital. That's a bold move. Myron is amazing. She used her magic to investigate the strength of the ground and came up with a plan. Really, magic is such a cheat. Geological surveillance is very complicated, but it's so easy for a skilled wizard to find out. You can easily find out the location of underground water veins, the existence of cavities, the brittleness of the ground, and the quality of the ground. Moreover, if you are good enough, you can even modify the soil. Soil-based magic can change the properties of soil, sand, soft rock, and hard rock. Long live magic. No wonder science and technology have not developed. On the contrary, the empires that focus on technology, and the vampires who are treated as freaks are the ones that are unusual in this world. However, I think we should not make fun of them, because they are the ones who make useful discoveries. That's an idea I never had. I thought shield engineering was useless in this world, but I guess magic can help. Well, I don't know what the shield thing is, but you're not losing, are you? It's a technique for reinforcing an underground excavation, so that the surface doesn't collapse. It takes a lot of machinery, but a good mage can do it, or maybe even beat it. I remembered mentioning once that it would be nice if we could run trains underground. I can only admire the fact that Myron, who remembered it, has made it happen. I heard that Larsen also cooperated, and it can be said that a construction method unique to another world has been completed. In terms of cost, this method is definitely much more advantageous. Well, this is not a matter of winning or losing. I felt that we could bring about a revolution by introducing the idea of technology into magic. Well, now I'm trying to suspend the construction and use the underpass as an evacuation site. We've reinforced the ceiling with magic, so it can withstand a big magic explosion in the city. It depends on the scale of destruction, but I think it's a good bomb shelter. If you stock up on water and food, you can stay in there for quite a while. It seems that water can be managed by magic. That's why I'm having them only carry food. I've also dug a bunch of side holes for places to sleep, and a big hole under the room with the door. You can use it as an outhouse. The room we were led to was indeed a toilet. The room was divided into many private rooms, and could be used by about 100 people at the same time. The shape of the toilet was Western style, and it was dropped down like a bottom toilet. But wouldn't the smell be bad in the underground space? Do you think so? But underneath this toilet, there are pieces of wood and other materials that help eliminate the smell. Oh, maybe it's like a bio-toilet. I don't know much about them, but the activated microorganisms break down the solids into water and carbon dioxide, and the water evaporates, right? That's pretty much correct. I've confirmed that the mechanism is working correctly, so there should be no problem with foul odor. Oh, great. I heard that there are about 5 toilets. It seemed that they could manage, even if the siege lasted long. Since there is a place to escape, we could send people who specialize in setting up defensive barriers. That way, they could prepare for a long war. I had heard that there was an underground passage that led to this one from the basement of the royal castle, so they were well prepared. I was relieved and excited by the technology of this world. We've got city defense barriers in place, and we've got evacuation drills going on. As soon as we spot an enemy, we can escape immediately. That's why the ministers didn't make any unreasonable demands. Yeah, that's why. Besides, I won't tolerate anyone who says anything stupid. I told them to quit their jobs and get out of the castle if they just want to whine. Anyone can complain. What's important is a positive opinion. Yaum laughed when I said that. Looking back on the time when we first met, he has grown tremendously. I was secretly reminded of the fact that we all grow up when the need arises. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it.